Hey everyone, Ariel Adams here with aBlogtoWatch. Please subscribe to our videos on YouTube and like this video if you find it useful. This is a review of the Breitling for Bentley GMT Lightbody B04S. And this is probably one of my favorite versions of the Breitling for Bentley watches. So let me just sort of explain what Breitling for Bentley is. Within Breitling, there is a sub-brand called Breitling for Bentley. And it's an official partnership, of course, with Bentley Automobiles. And there's a whole range of watches which are produced by Breitling, inspired by Bentley automobiles. And, you know, car-watch relationships have been around for a while. And I think it's safe to say that despite the fact that these are not watches for everyone, Breitling and Bentley have one of the more successful car-watch relationships. This one I like because of its legibility, relatively simplicity, distinctive looks, and you know we have a car review with a Bentley Mulsanne Speed sort of going along with this in the written review in aBlogtoWatch, and you can see some of our more extended thoughts on how these items go together, the car and the watch. But let's look at the watch itself. This version, it's called the Lightbody because it comes in a titanium case. The case is 45 millimeters wide. This knurled look on the bezel is one of the elements which is inspired by the car. There's elements in the car that have this knurled look. For example, the shifting column has this on the shifter, and there's some other little elements in the car as well, depending on the vehicle. And there's other elements, you know, depending on the model. As you can see on the back there, it says Bentley. And you have Breitling as well on various elements. But on the dial, there's not that much Bentley branding. In fact, there's only one area where it says Bentley, and you actually can't see it very well, which is funny. You'll see the Breitling logo. It's applied there, and then it says Breitling, and underneath that it says Bentley. But it's done in a way where it's sort of always obscured by the hands because the hands sort of have a counterweight. So there will be instances where it's not obscured by the hands, but oftentimes it is. Now, some people might say, well, that sucks. You know, I want to get this because it's the Breitling for Bentley watch. But at the same time, I think it's a good thing because a lot of people have voiced, I guess you could say, disapproval of co-branded watches where there's two brands on the dial, dual branded, so to say. And so I think it actually works in the watch's benefit. The bezel actually rotates, and if you look on the side here, there looks to be what would be in a dive watch, a helium release valve, because it looks almost identical, but it's not. It's a cap for a gearing system. And the reason there's a gearing system is when you move the bezel, it turns and it moves an inner rotating ring as well. Now inside of the gearing is made so that when you turn it, there's a solid feel, but it isn't like too easy to turn. So there's actually a gearing system in there to make sure that the turning experience is done well. And there's a city ring there, and so this is a world time watch, and the way it works is it's actually quite simple. And I'll explain that. So what you do here is you line up the city you're in. So we're in Los Angeles right now. So I put Los Angeles at the top there. Not quite sure if you can see, but it says Los Angeles. And then let's say I want to find the time in New York. Now this is a GMT watch, so in addition to having the 12-hour scale, it also has the outermost ring on the dial is a GMT scale. So what I would do is I would align this with the local time zone I'm in, and then I would follow along the GMT scale to the city I want to know. So let's say New York, and New York just happens to be on 3. So right now it's about 12:40, and if I wanted to know the time in New York, I would look here, it says 3, so it would be 3:40. And so if I was in New York, what I would do is I would move New York to being the reference city, and I would do the same thing. So it's actually funny because if you just hand someone it and say how to use a world time function, it may not make sense just based upon sort of intuitive deduction. But once you learn how to do it, it's super easy. Inside the watch is the Breitling in-house made B04 movement. It's an automatic chronograph movement. And it also adds the GMT hand. So you have a full 12-hour chronograph, date, time, and of course the GMT hand. One of the things I like about this movement is very robust. It has about 3 days of power reserve, and it's a good sort of hardy movement. One of the things which is a little annoying about it is when you want to go ahead and change the date, what you do here is you have to turn the hour hand all the way around again and again and again to go ahead and change the date. You can do the type of thing where if you're at 12 o'clock, you can go like this, but for the most part, there's no what I would call really, really quick, easy way of setting the date. but it's a relatively minor thing, and actually this makes it easier to have this independent adjustable hour hand. Makes it easier for when you're traveling. Of course, it's an automatic movement, and like pretty much every single Breitling watch, it is COSC chronometer certified. So let's put this watch on. One of the things about this watch, which is a little bit annoying, I guess you could say, is the fact that the rubber strap needs to be cut for size. So if you can see here, there's a nice titanium clasp, but what you need to do in order to really size the watch properly is cut it. And the funny thing is actually putting it on and off the wrist can be a little bit challenging, but there is a very handy micro adjust here. So you have several millimeters of micro adjustment, which is something I really like a lot. There's also branding on the side here which says Bentley, which is something that a lot of people don't love. It doesn't really bother me, but then again, if you are buying the Breitling for Bentley watch, you probably want to remember at least once in a while that it is, you know, Bentley-esque. I really like that the chronograph pushers have been integrated into the case like that. Well, not integrated, but it looks kind of like the crown guard, and that's a cool, elegant look that I happen to like a lot. On the wrist, it's comfortable, it's legible. What I like about the hands and hour markers is they're metal, and they have this almost sandblasted finish. It's a matte finish which really allows for a high level of contrast. There's a texture on the dial of sort of concentric rings, and you'll see that a lot of the Breitling for Bentley watches have this sort of dial texture. Some of them have this it looks like a grill. It's supposed to look like the grill of the car, and so it's skeletonized, which is not my favorite look, but this one is relatively sort of subdued. And what you really focus on this watch, which I appreciate, is the unique design of the case. It calls less attention to the dial, and the dial proves to be a lot more legible than some of the other ones. So I think that's a nice one. There's a few different versions of the Breitling for Bentley GMT in this case. There's different materials. This year in 2016, Breitling came out with one in carbon, which is really cool. You'll see that the subdials have these red rings around it. There's certain versions that don't have that red ring around it. So you'll have to look in there and see the different ones. But overall, this is probably my favorite Breitling for Bentley watch at this time, and I think it's done pretty well. So again, this is the Breitling for Bentley GMT Light Body B04S, and the price is $11,615, and you can see the full review on aBlogtoWatch. Thanks.